My daughter-in-law handed me a glass of wine and smiled. "Drink this, Margaret. You look exhausted." I should have known then. I should have seen it in the way her fingers trembled, in how she wouldn't meet my eyes. But I was tired, so desperately tired, and the house was warm, and my grandchildren were laughing in the next room. So I drank. That was my first mistake. The second was trusting that my son still loved me. Let me take you back 3 weeks. To the day everything began to unravel. I was standing in my kitchen, the kitchen I'd scrubbed and painted and filled with 30 years of memories, when my son Daniel walked in without knocking. He had his wife Sarah beside him, her hand protective over her swollen belly, 7 months pregnant with their third child, and she looked at me like I was something diseased. "Mom, we need to talk," Daniel said. Those 5 words. Every mother knows them. They're never followed by good news. I wiped my hands on my apron, the same floral one my late husband Robert had bought me the Christmas before he died. "Of course, sweetheart, sit down. I'll make coffee." "We don't have time for coffee." Sarah's voice was sharp, cutting. "We need you to sign these papers." She slid a manila folder across my kitchen table, the same table where I'd taught Daniel to read, where I'd held him when he cried over his first heartbreak, where Robert and I had planned our entire lives together. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Power of attorney, medical directive, property transfer agreement. "What is this?" My voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from underwater. "It's for your own good, Mom." Daniel couldn't look at me, my tall, handsome son, who I'd raised alone after his father died, who I'd worked 3 jobs to put through college. He stared at the floor like a guilty child. "You've been struggling. We think it's time you had help managing things." "Struggling, Daniel? I'm 62 years old. I run a bookkeeping business from home. I take care of myself perfectly well. You forgot Emma's birthday last month." Sarah leaned forward, her eyes cold and calculating. "You called me Jennifer twice last week." "Jennifer is Daniel's ex-girlfriend from college. Margaret, you're getting confused." The room tilted. I've been stressed. The business has been busy. And with the holidays coming, and there's the money," Sarah continued, smooth as poison. "The $50,000 you transferred out of your savings last month. Can you explain that?" My blood ran cold. "How do you know about my bank accounts?" "Daniel is on your accounts. Remember, you added him 5 years ago, in case of emergencies." Her smile was victorious. "So where did the money go, Margaret?" "I couldn't tell them. I couldn't tell anyone." "That's my business," I said quietly. "Not anymore." Sarah pushed the papers closer. "Sign these, or we'll have to go the harder route. Get a court to declare you mentally incompetent. It'll be expensive, ugly. The children will have to testify about how Grandma keeps forgetting things. Is that what you want?" I looked at my son, really looked at him, searching for the boy I'd raised, the young man who used to bring me flowers every Mother's Day, who used to say I was his hero. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. "Daniel," my voice broke, "is this what you want?" Finally, he looked up, and what I saw in his face destroyed me. Not cruelty, that would have been easier. What I saw was weakness, fear, and behind it all, greed, wearing the mask of concern. "It's for the best, Mom. You'll see. We'll take care of everything." I didn't sign. I stood up, my legs somehow holding me, and I walked to my front door and opened it. "Get out of my house." Sarah's face flushed red. "You're making a mistake. Get out." They left. But as Daniel passed me, he whispered something that made my blood turn to ice. "We'll be back. And next time, you won't have a choice." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the bed I'd shared with Robert, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The $50,000, they knew about it, but they didn't know what it was for. They didn't know about the letters. I got up and went to my closet, pushing aside winter coats and old dresses until I found the shoebox hidden in the back. Inside were 23 letters, all addressed to me, all postmarked from different cities across the country, all signed with the same name, Emily. My daughter. The daughter I'd given up for adoption 43 years ago, when I was 19 and alone and terrified. The daughter I'd never told anyone about, not even Robert. The secret I'd carried like a stone in my chest for 4 decades. She'd found me 6 months ago, a private investigator, she'd said, hired for a medical emergency. She needed my family medical history, nothing more. But then we'd started talking, emailing, then phone calls, and I'd discovered that the baby I'd held for 10 minutes before they took her away had grown into a remarkable woman, a doctor, a mother herself, kind and brilliant and so much like me it hurt. She'd wanted to meet, just once, she'd said, just to see my face, to understand where she came from. The $50,000 was for her. Her daughter, my granddaughter, needed surgery, experimental treatment for a rare genetic disorder. Insurance wouldn't cover it. Emily hadn't asked for money, would never have asked, but I'd offered it anyway. What good was money if I couldn't help the child I'd abandoned? If I couldn't finally do something right? But I couldn't tell Daniel any of this. Couldn't bear to see the betrayal in his eyes when he learned he wasn't my only child, that I'd kept this from him, from his father, from everyone. So I'd hidden it, and now they thought I was losing my mind. The next 2 weeks were psychological warfare. Daniel and Sarah stopped by daily, always with new concerns. I'd left the stove on, I hadn't. I'd forgotten to pay my electric bill, I had the receipt. I'd told my neighbor Mrs. Chen that Robert was still alive, an absolute lie. Mrs. Chen later confirmed. I'd said no such thing. They were building a case, carefully, methodically, poisoning my reputation one whispered conversation at a time. Grandchildren at the Michael and 6-year-old Sophie stopped visiting. When I called, Sarah would answer and say they were busy, always busy, too busy for grandma. I started to doubt myself. Had I forgotten Emma's birthday? Had I called Sarah the wrong name? Was I losing pieces of my mind like sand through fingers? I'd stand in my kitchen, trying to remember what I'd had for breakfast, and the memories would slip away like smoke. But then I'd find my daily planner, where I meticulously recorded everything, every appointment, every phone call, every meal, all in my neat handwriting, proof that I was still myself. Unless I'd written them while confused, unless my mind was playing tricks even in my documentation. The doubt was the cruelest part. They were making me question my own reality. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Margaret, it's Emily. My heart leaped. We'd been careful, only talking when I was certain I was alone, but something in her voice was wrong. Emily, what's happened? It's Grace, my daughter. The surgery, it didn't work. She was crying, her voice breaking apart. They gave her 6 months, maybe less. I needed to hear your voice. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called. No. I gripped the phone like a lifeline. No, sweetheart, I'm glad you called. I'm so sorry. Is there anything at all he can do? There's an experimental trial in Switzerland. It's her last chance, but it costs ... double quotes. She couldn't finish. How much? $300,000. It's impossible. I've already borrowed everything I can. I wanted you to know, to tell you that the money you gave us meant everything. It gave her 3 more months of normal life, of being a kid. Thank you for that. $300,000. I didn't have it. The house was paid off, but its value in this neighborhood was maybe $200,000. My retirement fund had another $50,000. Even liquidating everything, I'd fall short. Unless Robert's life insurance policy, the $1 million policy he'd taken out when Daniel was born, I'd put it in a trust, planning to leave it to Daniel when I died. It was his inheritance, his security. But Grace was dying. My granddaughter, the one Daniel didn't know existed. Emily, I said slowly, give me a week. I called my lawyer the next morning. Richard had handled Robert's estate and had been a family friend for 20 years. I trusted him completely. Margaret, are you certain about this? He looked at me over his reading glasses, concerned. This is Daniel's inheritance. Once you transfer it into your name and wire it overseas, I'm certain. May I ask what this is for? I told him everything, about Emily, about Grace, about the secret I'd kept for 43 years. He listened without judgment, and when I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Daniel will be furious when he finds out. I know, he could contest this, claim you were mentally incompetent when you made the transfer. My stomach dropped. Could he win? Richard frowned. Has he been documenting concerns about your mental state? I thought about the daily visits, the manufactured incidents, the whisper campaign. Yes, I whispered. Oh God, yes, he has. Then we need to be very careful. Richard leaned forward. I'll need you to undergo a full psychiatric evaluation. Document that you're of sound mind. It'll take a few days to arrange, but it'll protect you on your decision legally. Do it, whatever it takes. That's when things got dangerous. I don't know how. Sarah found out about the lawyer visit. Maybe Daniel had someone watching me, or maybe Richard's secretary gossiped. But the next day, my son appeared at my door with 2 police officers. Mrs. Thornton, one of the officers, young and uncomfortable, shifted his weight. We've received a report that you might be a danger to yourself. Your family is concerned. A danger. I stared at Daniel. betrayal burning through me. You called the police on your own mother. You've been acting erratically, Mom. His voice was smooth, practiced. You left the house at 3 a.m. last night. Mrs. Chen saw you wandering the street in your nightgown. That's a lie. I was in bed all night. Ma'am, please calm down. The officer raised his hands. We just need to do a wellness check. She's agitated. Sarah appeared behind Daniel, her voice dripping false concern. She's been getting worse. We found these in her medicine cabinet. She held up an orange pill bottle. She's not taking her medications. I'd never seen that bottle before in my life. What medications? I don't take anything except a daily vitamin. The doctor prescribed these for her anxiety and confusion, Sarah told the officers, but she refuses to take them. She says they're poison. She's becoming paranoid. The world was spinning. They'd planted pills in my house. They'd fabricated a story about me wandering at night. They were going to have me committed. Please. I looked at the officers desperately. Call my lawyer, Richard Morrison. He can explain. Mom, you don't have a lawyer. Daniel's voice was gentle, pitying. You fired Richard 3 weeks ago, don't you remember? You said he was stealing from you. Another lie. But how could I prove it? I want to call him, right now. I have that right, ma'am. You're not under arrest, the second officer said, but your family is requesting a psychiatric hold, for your own safety, just for 72 hours, until a doctor can evaluate you. 72 hours, long enough for them to transfer the funds, long enough to have me declared incompetent, long enough to take everything. I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. I pushed past the officers. They weren't expecting it, weren't prepared for a 62-year-old woman to bolt in. I ran out my back door, through my garden, over the fence I'd helped Robert build 30 years ago. Behind me, I heard shouting, Daniel calling my name, but I didn't stop. I ran like my life depended on it, because it did. I made it to Mrs. Chun's house. She'd been my neighbor for 15 years, and we'd had tea together every Sunday. When I pounded on her door, wild-eyed and breathless, she took one look at me and pulled me inside. Margaret, what's happened? Did you tell them you saw me wandering last night, at 3 a.m.? Her face crinkled in confusion. What? No, I was asleep at 3 a.m. I didn't see anything. Relief crashed through me. They're lying. They're all lying, and I need your help. I told her everything, about Emily, about the money, about Daniel and Sarah's systematic campaign to have me declared incompetent. Mrs. Chen listened, her expression growing darker. That boy, she hissed when I finished. I changed his diapers. I babysat him. How dare he do this to his mother? Will you help me? Tell me what you need. What I needed was time and proof. Mrs. Chen called her son Marcus, who worked in IT security. Within 2 hours, he'd installed hidden cameras in my house. Teeny things I'd never have noticed. If Daniel and Sarah came back, we'd have video evidence of anything they planted or claimed. Richard arrived an hour later, looking grim. I got your message, Margaret, running from the police. They were going to commit me based on lies. I was shaking, the adrenaline finally wearing off. Richard, they planted medications in my house. They're going to take everything. I know, I believe you. He sat down heavily. I've seen this before. Financial elder abuse. It's more common than people think, especially when there's money involved. But Margaret, we need to be smart, strategic. The psychiatric evaluation. I've arranged it for tomorrow morning, but you need to go home tonight. If you're hiding, it'll look like you're unstable, like you're running from help. What if they come back? They won't. I've filed an emergency restraining order. Daniel and Sarah can't come within 500 feet of you or your property until after your evaluation. He paused. But Margaret, I need to know, are you absolutely certain you want to give Emily that money? Once it's gone, she's my daughter. Her child is dying. Yes, I'm certain. He nodded slowly. Then we'll make it happen, the right way, the legal way, so no one can ever claim you weren't in your right mind. I went home that night, to my empty house full of memories and secrets. The police had gone. Daniel's car was no longer in my driveway, but I could feel their presence like a ghost, their accusations lingering in every room. I found the pill bottle Sarah had shown the police, still sitting on my bathroom counter. I photographed it from every angle, then checked my calendar. The pharmacy label claimed I'd picked it up 2 weeks ago, but I had a dentist appointment that day. The timestamp on the receipt would prove I couldn't have been at the pharmacy. Evidence. I was collecting evidence of their lies, but the exhaustion was crushing, not just physical, but so the kind of tired that comes from your own child turning against you, from realizing that the boy you'd sacrificed everything for saw you as nothing more than an obstacle to money. I lay in bed, Robert's picture on the nightstand, and I wept. What do I do? I whispered to his photograph. How did we raise a son who could do this? The picture, of course, didn't answer, but in my heart, I knew what Robert would say. He'd tell me to fight, to protect Emily and Grace, to not let Daniel's greed destroy what was left of our family. So that's what I decided to do. The psychiatric evaluation the next morning was grueling. 3 hours of questions, memory tests, puzzles, and assessments. The psychiatrist, Dr. Patel, was thorough and kind but intensely focused. Tell me about the $50,000, Margaret. I'd prepared for this. Richard had coached me to be honest, but strategic. I gave it to someone in need, someone I care about. Your family claims you can't explain where it went, that you became defensive and confused when asked. I became defensive because my son and his wife ambushed me in my own home, demanding I sign over power of attorney. They had no right to interrogate me about my private financial decisions. Are you aware they're concerned about your memory? They've documented several incidents, all false. I pulled out my planner, my photographs, my evidence. I keep meticulous records. I can account for every day, every appointment. The incidents they've described either never happened or were deliberately misrepresented. Dr. Patel reviewed my documentation for a long time. Then she asked the question I'd been dreading. Margaret, why would your son lie about these things? Because he wants my money, and he thinks the easiest way to get it is to have me declared incompetent. That's a serious accusation. I know, but it's the truth. She studied me for a long moment. Tell me about Emily. My breath caught. How do you know about Emily? Your lawyer mentioned you've been in contact with the daughter you placed for adoption. He thought it might be relevant to understanding the $50,000. She leaned forward. Margaret, carrying a secret like that for 43 years, that's an enormous psychological burden. Have you considered that the stress of reconnecting with her might be affecting your judgment? And there it was. The question that haunted me in the dark hours of the night. Was I making a mistake? Was I so desperate to atone for giving her up that I was sacrificing Daniel's inheritance? Was grief and guilt driving me toward a decision I'd regret? Dr. Patel, I said slowly, I gave Emily up because I was 19, and alone, and terrified. I've regretted it every day for 43 years. Now, I have a chance, maybe my only chance, to help her. To help her daughter, my granddaughter. Yes, I'm making this decision partly out of guilt, but I'm also making it out of love, and I'm making it with full awareness of what it costs. What about Daniel? Your son. This will devastate him financially. Daniel is a 40-year-old man with a successful career, and a home, and a family. He'll be fine. Grace is a 12-year-old girl with 6 months to live. They're not equivalent situations. Dr. Patel was quiet for a long time. Finally, she closed her notebook. Mrs. Thornton, you're one of the most competent people I've evaluated in 20 years. You're not confused, not delusional, not suffering from any cognitive decline. You're making a difficult choice under enormous pressure, but you're making it with full mental capacity. She paused. I'll have my report to your lawyer by end of day. And Margaret, I hope your granddaughter gets her miracle. That's when Daniel made his final, most desperate move. I returned home to find my house in chaos. Someone had broken in or used a key, more likely, and ransacked my office. Files everywhere, my computer gone, my lockbox forced open, and sitting in the center of my kitchen table, the shoebox of letters from Emily. He knew. My phone rang. Daniel, we need to talk. Mom, now, did you break into my house? I used my key, the one you gave me for emergencies, remember? And what I found? His voice was tight with fury. Another daughter. All this time, Dad never knew. I never knew. Daniel, I can explain. You've been sending her money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, in inheritance that's supposed to be mine, for some stranger, some woman you abandoned before I was even born. She's your sister. She's nothing to me. He was screaming now. You kept her a secret my entire life, and now you're going to give her everything. After everything I've done for you, after I gave up my 20s to take care of you after Dad died. Guilt, familiar and heavy, settled over me. He wasn't wrong. When Robert died, Daniel had been 23, just starting his career. He'd moved back home for 2 years to help me through the grief, had put his life on hold. But he'd also inherited Robert's business, had used it as a springboard for his own success. This wasn't the one-sided sacrifice he was claiming. Daniel, please, let's talk about this calmly. No, here's what's going to happen. You're going to come to Christmas dinner tomorrow night, our house, the whole family, and you're going to explain to everyone why you've been lying for 43 years, why you're choosing a stranger over your real family. Daniel, if you don't show up, I'm going to file a lawsuit claiming you're being manipulated, that this Emily person is scamming you. I'll have every transaction you've made with her investigated. I'll drag her through hell, Mom, and her dying daughter too, if that's what it takes. The line went dead. Mrs. Chen found me sitting at my kitchen table, surrounded by scattered letters, tears streaming down my face. He's threatening Emily, I whispered, and Grace. He'll destroy them out of spite. Then you fight back. Mrs. Chen's voice was steel. You're a mother, Margaret. Both of those girls need you. So you be the mother you've always been and you protect them. How? He has lawyers, money, time, and you have the truth. She picked up one of Emily's letters. You have proof. She's your daughter. You have the medical records about Grace. You have your psychiatric evaluation, showing you're competent, and you have me and Marcus and Richard. She smiled fiercely. You're not alone in this. You never were. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I called Emily. I'm coming to Switzerland with you, I said, and I'm bringing my whole family. It's time everyone met. Christmas Eve arrived, gray and cold. I stood outside Daniel's house, my heart pounding, a leather folder tucked under my arm. This was it, the moment that would either save my family or shatter it forever. Sarah answered the door, her smile venomous. Margaret, how nice of you to join us. Come in, everyone's waiting. The living room was full. Daniel and Sarah, their children, Daniel's best friend and his wife, Sarah's parents, an audience for my humiliation. And sitting in the corner, watching me with cold eyes, Daniel's new lawyer. Mom, Daniel stood, his face a mask of concerned sadness. We're glad you came. We've all been so worried. Please, sit down. I remained standing. I have something to tell all of you. Before you do, the lawyer stepped forward. Mrs. Thornton, I'm David Beckworth. I've been retained by your son to look into certain financial irregularities. I think it's important that we discuss. No, my voice rang out, stronger than I felt. I'm going to speak, and you're all going to listen. I opened my folder and pulled out the first document, my psychiatric evaluation. I handed it to Daniel. Dr. Patel's report. I'm completely mentally competent. Every accusation you've made about my confusion, my memory problems, all lies, and I can prove it. I pulled out my planner, my photographs, my time-stamped evidence. You've been systematically trying to gaslight me, to build a case for incompetence, because I made a financial decision you didn't like. Daniel's face flushed red. You're giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars to a stranger, to your sister. The room went silent. 43 years ago, I gave birth to a daughter. I was 19, unmarried, and terrified. I placed her for adoption. I never told anyone, not even your father, because the shame and guilt were too much to bear. I looked directly at Daniel. Her name is Emily. She's a doctor, a mother, and she found me 6 months ago. This is insane, Sarah started, but I cut her off. Her daughter, Grace, has a rare genetic disorder. She needs an experimental treatment in Switzerland. It costs $300,000. I'm giving her the money from your father's life insurance trust. My money, legally, to do with as I choose. That's my inheritance. Daniel was on his feet now. You can't just. I can, and I have. The wire transfer went through this morning. The room erupted. Daniel shouting, Sarah crying, the lawyer demanding to see documents, and through it all, I stood there, calm and certain. Then the doorbell rang. Sarah, flustered and angry, went to answer it. When she returned, her face was white. Behind her stood a woman with my eyes and my smile, and beside her, a beautiful 12-year-old girl with a scarf covering her bald head. Hello, Emily said quietly. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm Emily Thornton, and this is my daughter, Grace. The silence was deafening. Daniel stared at Emily like she was a ghost, and maybe she was the ghost of my past, of my secret, now made flesh and standing in his living room. You look like her, he whispered finally, like old photos of Mom. I know. Emily's voice was gentle. I have your mother's eyes, and her stubbornness, apparently. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. You didn't have to come, any of you. The money was enough. No. I crossed the room and took her hand, then Grace's. It wasn't enough, because money isn't family, and you are my family, both of you. I turned to Daniel. This is your sister. This is your niece. They're not strangers. They're blood. And yes, I chose them. Just like I chose you when I raised you alone after your father died. Just like I chose to work 3 jobs to pay for your college. Love isn't a finite resource. Daniel, giving love to Emily doesn't mean I love you less. You lied to me for my entire life. Yes, I did. And I'm sorry, but I won't apologize for helping them now, for using my money to save a child's life. If you can't understand that, if all you can see is the inheritance you're losing, then I failed as a mother in ways I never imagined. The room was silent except for the sound of Grace's soft breathing. The little girl looked between us all, her eyes wise beyond her years. Grandma Margaret. Her voice was small but clear. Are you the lady who sent Mom the money for my surgery? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. She smiled. Thank you. Mom says I can have the surgery now, that I might get to grow up. She looked at Daniel. Are you my uncle? Daniel's face crumbled. He looked at this child, his niece, with my eyes and his father's nose, and something in him broke. Yeah, he said roughly. Yeah, I guess I am. What happened next wasn't a miracle. It wasn't a neat resolution where everyone hugged and cried and all was forgiven. Real life doesn't work that way. But it was a beginning. Sarah's parents left, disgusted by the family drama. The lawyer slipped away quietly, but Daniel's friend stayed, and slowly, hesitantly, Daniel and Emily began to talk. They found common ground in small things at first. Both loved hiking, both were terrible at cooking, both had my habit of organizing books by color, instead of by author. Michael and Sophie, initially shy, became fascinated by Grace. She told them about living in Boston, about her art therapy during treatments, about the trip to Switzerland she was about to take. And I sat between my 2 children, both of them, finally, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Taupe. But the story wasn't over. It never is with family. An hour into the dinner, after the initial shock had faded, Sarah pulled me aside into the kitchen. Her face was cold, calculated. This doesn't change anything, she said quietly. You still gave away our children's inheritance, money that Daniel earned by taking care of you. No. I met her eyes steadily. Money that Robert earned. Money that was put in trust for me to manage as I saw fit. Daniel earned nothing except what he built himself. And he's done very well for himself. We're having another baby. We need financial security. Then perhaps you should have thought of that before you tried to have me declared incompetent. Before you planted pills in my house and lied to the police. Did you think I wouldn't find out, Sarah? That I wouldn't fight back? Her eyes widened. I don't know what you're talking about. Mrs. Chun's son installed cameras in my house. I have video of you going through my medicine cabinet, planting that pill bottle. I have recordings of you and Daniel planning your campaign against me. I smiled, sharp and dangerous. I've given Richard copies of everything. If you ever try something like this again, I'll press charges for elder abuse, fraud, and attempted theft. Do you understand? The color drained from her face. Daniel would never let you. Daniel doesn't get a vote. You tried to steal from me, Sarah. You tried to have me committed to a psychiatric facility. Those are crimes. And the only reason I'm not pursuing them now is because I don't want to put my grandchildren through that trauma. I leaned closer. But make no mistake, I will protect myself, and I will protect Emily and Grace, with everything I have. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked away without another word. The evening wound down slowly. Emily and Grace had a hotel nearby. They were flying to Switzerland in 3 days. Daniel offered them his guest room instead, and after a moment's hesitation, Emily accepted. As I prepared to leave, Daniel caught my arm. Mom, wait. We stood in his foyer, the same place where this had all begun weeks ago, when he'd demanded I sign away my life. I'm sorry, he said finally, not for being angry about the secret. I'm still processing that, but for the other stuff, the power of attorney, the pills, Sarah told me that was all her idea, but I went along with it. I wanted the money, and I told myself it was for the kids, for the new baby, but really, he swallowed hard. Really, I was just greedy, and scared of not having enough, scared of not being successful enough, and I took it out on you. I cupped his face in my hands. This man who was still my little boy in so many ways. I forgive you, I said simply, but Daniel, you need to understand something. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your backup plan. I'm your mother, and I love you, but my life, my choices, they're mine, not yours, I know. He pulled me into a hug. I'll do better, I promise. Don't promise me. Show me. Be a good uncle to Grace. Be a good brother to Emily. That's how you make this right. 3 days later, I stood in the airport with Emily and Grace, watching them prepare to board their flight to Switzerland. The experimental treatment would take 6 weeks. If it worked, Grace would have a future. If it didn't, but I couldn't think about that. Wouldn't. Thank you, Emily said for the 100th time, for everything, for the money, for coming to Daniel's house, for being your mother. I smiled. I should have done it 43 years ago. I can't get those years back, but I can be here now. Grace hugged me tight. Will you come visit us? In Boston. When I'm better, I'll be the first one on the plane, I promised. They disappeared through security, and I stood there watching until I couldn't see them anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Made reservations at that restaurant you like for next Sunday. All of us, Emily and Grace too, when they get back. Real family dinner. No drama, I promise. I smiled through my tears and typed back, I'll be there. 6 weeks later, I was sitting in my kitchen when my phone rang with a FaceTime request from Emily. Margaret, can you see us? The camera was shaky, showing a hospital room in Switzerland. Emily's face, exhausted but radiant. And beside her, Grace, still thin but sitting up, her eyes bright and alive. The treatment worked. Emily sobbed. The doctors say she's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. I couldn't speak, could only cry and laugh and thank whatever forces in the universe had brought this moment into being. Behind me, I heard my front door open. Daniel's voice, Mom, you home? We brought dinner. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, Sarah and the kids behind him. When he saw my tears, he froze. What's wrong? What happened? I turned the phone so he could see the screen. Emily and Grace, both waving, both crying, both alive with hope. Your sister called, I said. Your niece is going to live. And then we were all crying. Daniel and Sarah and Michael and Sophie and me. All of us crowded around my phone, talking over each other, celebrating a life saved, a family found, a mother's choice vindicated. 2 months later, Emily and Grace moved to our city. Daniel helped them find a house 3 streets over from mine. Grace started at the same school Michael and Sophie attended. Sunday dinners became a tradition. But peace, I was learning, is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It's something you fight for every single day. The first crack appeared 3 months after Grace's miraculous recovery. I was having tea with Mrs. Chen when my phone rang. Emily's number, but her voice was strange, tight, frightened. Margaret, can you come over? Now, please, don't tell Daniel. My blood went cold. What's wrong? Just, please come, alone. I found her sitting at her kitchen table, her face pale, a stack of papers in front of her. Grace was at school. I could see her backpack hanging by the door, covered in patches and pins, evidence of a life being lived again. Emily, what happened? She pushed the papers toward me. Legal documents, dense with terminology I didn't fully understand, but certain words leaped out. Paternity test, biological father, custody evaluation. Someone found out about me, Emily whispered, about the money, about everything. Who? Grace's father, my ex. We divorced 5 years ago. He was abusive, controlling. I got full custody because he didn't contest it. He didn't want the responsibility of a sick child. Her hands were shaking. But now that she's better, now that he knows there's money involved, he wants her back. He's filed for custody. The papers swam before my eyes. This couldn't be happening. Not after everything we'd been through. Can he do this? His lawyer says I committed fraud, that I took money from you under false pretenses, that I manipulated you during a vulnerable period. Her voice broke. Margaret, he's going to claim I'm an unfit mother, that I'm a con artist who targets elderly women. He's going to try to take Grace away from me. I felt rage, hot and pure, flood through me. Like hell he is. Dudo, you don't understand. He has resources, his family is wealthy, and he's found something. She pulled out another document, and this one made my stomach drop. It was a private investigator's report, about me, about my mental health concerns, about Daniel and Sarah's attempt to have me declared incompetent. He's going to argue that you're not a reliable witness to my character, Emily said dully, that you were experiencing cognitive decline when you gave me the money, that the whole thing was elder abuse, and I took advantage of you. But the psychiatric evaluation was done after the money transferred. His lawyer will argue you were coached, that Richard told you what to say, She looked at me with hollow eyes. He's going to destroy both of us to get custody of Grace. And the worst part, he doesn't even want her. He just wants to hurt me, to punish me for leaving him. I sat down heavily. Does Daniel know? No. I didn't want to drag him into this. He's finally accepted me, finally trying to be a brother. If this comes out, if there's a trial where I'm accused of scamming his mother, she pressed her hands to her face. It'll destroy everything we've built. Then we fight, I said firmly. We get our own lawyers, we tell the truth. The truth makes me look guilty. Emily's voice cracked. I contacted you 6 months after Dad's death, right when you were most vulnerable. I asked for money for Grace's treatment. From the outside, it looks exactly like a scam. Like I researched you, found out about your loss, and targeted you deliberately. The room spun, because she was right. If you didn't know the love between us, the genuine connection, if you only looked at the timeline, the money transfers, my son's documented concerns about my mental state, it painted a damning picture. Did you, I asked quietly, research me before you made contact? Emily's head snapped up, hurt flashing across her face. How can you even ask that? Because a lawyer will, a judge will, and we need to be prepared for the question. She was quiet for a long moment. Yes, she said finally, I researched you. When the agency found you, I wanted to know who you were, what kind of person you'd become. If you were someone I wanted to meet. She met my eyes. Does that make me a con artist? No, it makes you human. But Emily, we need to tell Daniel, now, before he hears it from a lawyer or reads it in court documents. He'll think I used you. Maybe, or maybe he'll surprise you. He's been trying, Emily. Really trying to be a better man, a better son. Give him a chance to be a better brother too. That night, I called a family meeting. Daniel and Sarah arrived, confused and wary. I'd been cryptic on the phone, saying only that it was urgent. Emily sat beside me on the couch, Grace upstairs, doing homework, unaware of the storm gathering around her. I didn't sugarcoat it. I laid out everything: the custody filing, the allegations, the private investigator's report on my mental decline. Daniel's face went through a journey of emotions, shock, anger, and then something that looked like guilt. This is my fault, he said finally. If I hadn't tried to have you declared incompetent, if I hadn't created that paper trail. It's not your fault, Emily said quickly. My ex is doing this. He's the one weaponizing it, but I gave him the weapon. Daniel stood up, pacing. Jesus, I was so angry about the money, so convinced you were taking advantage of Mom, that I built this whole case against her mental state, and now some abusive asshole is using it to steal a child. Daniel, I started, but he cut me off. No, Mom, this is on me. I need to fix it. He pulled out his phone. I know some people, lawyers who specialize in family court, and I know investigators who can dig into this guy's background. If he's as bad as Emily says he is, Emily whispered. He broke my arm once, told everyone. I fell. Grace was 2 years old. She watched it happen,